What's up, my carbon-based audience? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host that will beat the Valkyries in God of War no matter how many times I die, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/StoriesAboutKevin. Alright, this story's called My Boss's Stepson is a Kevin to End All Kevins. So just over a year ago, I switched jobs and went to work for a guy, Bob, who is running a new/used aquarium shop. The shop was built onto his house, so as a result, I've become pretty close with his family, including his 15-year-old stepson, who is the most Kevin person I've ever met. For the first couple of months, I thought he was just a bit quirky and clumsy, but as I've come to know him more, I've discovered that he is a Kevin of the highest order. Now, I've known some dumb teenagers in my time. Hell, I used to be one. But this kid is just on another level. Just in the year that I've known him, he licked a lit match because he thought the fire would taste like a flamin' hot Cheeto. He cannot climb a flight of stairs without tripping up them. This is a multiple times a day occurrence. He once dropped a bowl of cereal and milk, and rather than clean the mess with a towel, he soaked up the spill with his sock. A sock that was still on his foot. He then put on his shoes, went out to catch the bus, and went to school with a soaking wet milk sock. He went to the school nurse that day because he was convinced that his foot was bleeding and soaking through his sock. He wants to be the first pro-Trump rapper and is currently pissed off at Kanye for stealing his idea. He's failing gym class. I have no idea how one fails gym class. He has broken more than 20 aquariums in the last year. When we buy used tanks, they need to be washed and leak tested before we resell them. Kevin sometimes does this to help out, but can't understand that when you wrap the hose around an aquarium, you can't just yank it free. For reference, I've been in the aquarium hobby for 12 years and I've broken 2. He's not allowed to clean tanks anymore. Bob was selling an older, fairly good condition Cadillac that had been sitting in his driveway for a while. The day before the buyer came to pick it up, Kevin was mowing the yard and scraped the handle of the mower along the entire length of one side of the car. He likes to use Jew as an insult. When I called him out on it, I discovered that he thought Jewish people didn't actually exist. He thought they were an imaginary race of people that everyone pretended to hate. He played lacrosse on his school's team this summer and got benched all season because he told the coach that he didn't need to run laps or go to practice. This is probably why he's failing gym class. He left in the morning like normal to go catch the bus. 3 hours later, he came back saying that he missed the bus and he needed to be driven to school. The problem? It was Labor Day. There was no school. He stood at the bus stop for 3 hours on a day when there was no school. He eats absolutely everything in sight. If you leave food unattended for more than 10 seconds, it's gone. Bob went to Taco Bell and got food for the 4 of us. Kevin was left alone with it and ate his, mine, Bob's, and half of his mom's food before he realized that it probably wasn't all for him. When he found out that I'm a chili head, he bragged for a week about how he loved super spicy food too. He then tried a glob of my exoesco after I warned him repeatedly not to, and spent the next 2 hours crying and blaming me. We've been gradually remodeling the house when we're not working in the store. Kevin's bedroom was the first room we finished. He managed to put a hole in the wall on the first day he moved in. One day, completely out of the blue, he asked me, "I know that girls don't have a penis, but is there just like a hole beneath their belly button where a penis would be?" Bob told Kevin to wash the truck one day earlier this year. Kevin thought he'd be helpful and wash out the fuel tank as well, with water. His school lets him rent a tablet for schoolwork. He got it taken away within a week because he was using it for video of the adult variety. I assume he wanted to find out if the girls had a hole where a penis should be. His parents signed him up for tutoring to help with his grades. Turns out, all the tutoring in the world won't help your grades if you never turn in your homework. He was under the impression that homework was optional. Also, he routinely falls asleep in class. He thought that fish were just very active plants. Yes, really. He managed to tip over and dump the contents of the trash can he was taking out to the roadside to be picked up. Rather than pick up the mess, he just kicked it around and spread it out across the yard in hopes that it would be less noticeable if the mess were less concentrated. I know there's more I'm forgetting, and I'll edit this post as I remember them or as Kevin gives me more material. I'll just leave you with this tidbit. Kevin starts driving in 3 months. May the gods have mercy on us all. Edit number 1. To everyone wondering if Kevin has some kind of undiagnosed mental health issues, I suppose it's possible, but it seems more like just a severe lack of common sense than anything else. I've never met his biological dad, but from what I've learned from his mom, he's one of those people who is habitually unemployed, yet spends all day complaining about how immigrants and minorities are a drain on society. I'm hoping Kevin will eventually grow out of his Kevinness and not follow his dad's footsteps. Edit number 2, November 10th, 2018. A couple more. One just happened this week. The other apparently happened a couple months ago, and Bob just told me about it. Kevin decided that he was going to practice his blacksmithing by removing the leaf catcher bag from the lawnmower and bending the crap out of the metal frame. He then realized after the fact that he was probably going to get in trouble for ruining the leaf catcher, so he decided to burn the bag and throw the frame in the trash. Bob found out, of course, and Kevin has spent the last week complaining about how tedious it is to manually rake the leaves out of the yard. Kevin discovered that you can take things apart with a screwdriver and decided to disassemble the blender with his newfound knowledge. He took the entire thing apart and had no idea how to put it back together again. So he left the pieces all over the counter. When his parents asked him why he did it, he first denied that it was him and then claimed that the blender just randomly fell apart for no reason. Edit number 3, April 12, 2019. Since this is getting a bit of attention today, here's an update on how Kevin's 2019 has been so far. Kevin has not started driving yet, and he likely won't for at least another year. Bob bought him an old Jeep that needed repairs before it was drivable, and Kevin managed to knock one of the side mirrors off with his bicycle. I have no idea how. Kevin has decided to start writing a fantasy novel, and in a moment of weakness, I volunteered to be his beta reader. He then told me that it's going to be an erotic orc fiction with swords. He was making a grilled cheese sandwich and decided to experiment and put peanut butter on it. He burned the peanut butter, set off the smoke alarm, ate half of it, gagged, threw it in the trash, then dug it out of the trash, and ate the rest. Wow. He isn't allowed to have a cell phone because he is still failing a number of classes and he is too easily distracted by technology. So he's been going to Walmart and buying the cheapest phone they have and hiding it from his parents. The problem is that he hides it in his pocket and doesn't know how to silence ringtones. He's had at least 3 phones taken away from him. He got a blunt from one of his friends at school, smoked it, and then told his parents that the smell was his new cologne. Yeah, man, I'm sorry, that would never work. By far my favorite part of this whole post was when he took apart the blender and said it fell apart by itself. This story's called I Live with a Kevin. Repost. I'm reposting this because my last one was removed. My fault, as I didn't make it very clear at all it wasn't an honest mistake, which is against the rules of this subreddit. Sorry! However, I'm going to add more to this, so hopefully I'll be in accordance with the rules this time and not piss off as many people with my ignorance. So, here we go! His name isn't Kevin, obviously. My housemate is in his 60s, while I am 20. Complicated situation, but he's a friend of the family, and we live in my dad's home while my dad lives with his new wife elsewhere. He's pretty handy and has experience, but whenever I try to tell him things, or whenever he tries something he's never done before, it's like he shuts off his brain and refuses to listen or learn. Just yesterday, he asked me how to reset a password. He walks me through what he does, and instead of clicking log in for the forgotten password button, he clicks on the register button. Ugh. So I tell him to click the login button. He does and looks at it, then says,
Okay, how do I reset my password?
In big letters, in bright green, under where the password goes are the words, reset your password. Ugh. So he clicks on it, puts in his email for a verification code to reset his password. He goes into the first email of 2. He literally reads through the entire email and says,
They gave me no information.
There was only one big, bright button that said, go to website to reset password. Ugh. I point at it, losing my brain cells. He clicks on it, and it takes him to a page that asks for the verification code from the second email that came up at his notifications and made a noise even. He reads the page and says,
Verification code? They didn't give me one.
Ugh. I told him it's probably in his emails. He says they never gave him one. I told him that how can he know if he doesn't check, getting annoyed and dying inside. So he opens his emails, finds the email, writes down the code, asks me if he should go back to the app, then puts in the code. It takes him to where he needs to reset his password. He looks at me without reading anything and asks,
Now what?
I just wanted to let out the biggest, most obnoxious sigh right then and there. But I kept my composure and told him it's where he resets his password, and I just walked away, leaving him to it. Thankfully, he didn't call for me again, so hopefully he sorted it out, or maybe he just got something wrong and noticed how dead I was on the inside from his boomer Kevinness. Don't care if that ain't a term, I'll make it one if I have to, dang it! Another time, we filled up my dad's trailer with trash and put some straps over the top to ratchet them down. Now, these ratchets are used on his big flatbed truck. Like, these are the big, expensive ratchets used to hold down entire tons of weight. Now, this isn't necessarily stupid, but he tightened it up so tightly, he broke a supporting pole attached to the bit covering the top of the wheel or tire. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. So he broke it, but not completely. So what does he do? He grabs it to rip the rest of the support beam off of the trailer. He pulled the beam upwards, which even bent the fender. Remembered it, he could have easily broken the fender, making the trailer unusable. My other housemates and I had to literally yell at him to not rip it off. Otherwise, it would have been a pain or expensive to repair. He was completely oblivious to this, acted like he wasn't doing anything wrong. And another time, he tried to help me pump up my bike tire. The little metal piece on the end of the tube connected to the pump wasn't compatible with the tire's little pipe bit. I tried once and realized it wasn't going to work. I told him it wasn't going to work and for us to go elsewhere. He shrugs it off, then tries 4 more times. He then says he wants to try one more time after spending about 20 minutes and failing. I tell him that is silly logic, and he gets all angry at me. I don't think he even realized why I was mad with him getting mad with me. He also seems to have this weird thought sequence that because I know about technology, that means I'm also a handyman, for some reason. We have 2 bathrooms in our house. My bedroom is the master suite with its own bathroom. My other 2 housemates use the other bathroom. Their bathroom's tap started leaking, and for some reason, Mr. Kevin thought I could do it with no issue. First of all, not my bathroom, so it's not my responsibility, but because I can't be bothered arguing with his dumb logic, I walk in and just stand there at the sink. I know how to level soil, lay turf, pave, and do some decking. But plumbing and electrical? Yeah, no. He constantly asks me how to use a microwave, an oven, the washing machine, and even a dryer. But he's completely fine whenever cooking a roast in the oven. Like what? He likes to drink a lot of water bottles, which hydration is important, but he throws the multiple bottles into the recycling bin, which is where it's meant to go. But he uses so many bottles that he fills up the recycling bin way too quickly. I asked him if he could do a simple crush motion. These are thin plastic bottles, so crushing them downwards was so easy a child could do it, so that there would be more room in the bin. Yesterday, I take our inside bin to the outside bins to find our recycling bin is completely full of water bottles. not crushed, and this bin doesn't get emptied until next week. Garbage bin is emptied every week, recycling bin is emptied every other week. He does this a lot, and now we don't have anywhere to put our recycling, but I guarantee you he'll just put it all in the garbage bin. We've gotten complaints from the Shire that empties the bins, but he doesn't care. He also just says things that can make me immediately angry with him. And it's not just me, because even friends of ours are just like, why did you say that? Kevin got an Audible book on Tom Sawyer and whatever that story is, but apparently wasn't the correct one, as within the first 20 seconds it said the N-word. Obviously, it gets turned off, and I just express how I was shocked it said that word. Kevin asks what word I meant. I said, the N-word? So he goes,
Oh, you mean, and
whoa. I was shocked and immediately just got so pissed with him. And he just speaks without thinking a lot. And just before anyone asks, this housemate has no dementia, no mental issues, and doesn't have the typical old-timer attitude. He knows how to read and write and has enough comprehension to keep his job, which involves following multiple safety policies. One mistake and he's fired. So I just don't understand why he seems to just turn off his brain at home, but he does it so constantly and acts like nothing is wrong so often that I feel like he is quite the Kevin. It's stuff like this that makes him wonder why I spend a lot of time in my room. Okay, first of all, I could be wrong, because it's been a long time since I've listened to these books, because my teacher played them over tape in 8th grade, but I'm pretty sure the Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn books do contain the N-word. Again, could be wrong, correct me if I am. They are good books though, even though they are old, which old books are typically a lot slower because that's what was popular back then. But if you go back and try reading them, I guarantee you they're pretty good. Might need to get one that has a glossary with all the old terms in it, because there's some weird freaking words. And about the Kevin, I knew a guy that was very similar to this guy. When we were at the hotel, the maintenance guy, he was an old man with lots of issues. Like, this guy had done so many drugs in his youth, like, he was one of those sex, drugs, and rock and roll type of guys, so his brain and everything, kind of screwy sometimes. I'm not being mean, like, he genuinely has said and done some dumb and bad things too. But anyways, I was forced to train this guy on the night audit, so I had to teach him how to balance all the crap and make sure everything matched, and if it didn't match, what to do. And it's not that complicated. It sounds really complicated, but it isn't. It's just simple addition, just making sure numbers added up on our hotel check-in website thing, and also where the credit card payments get sent. So we just had to make sure everything matched so we don't lose money. But this guy, I could not train him. I tried so hard. I left written instructions. I did everything I possibly could, but this guy screwed up so much stuff. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.